Let's talk about the 10 books I read this month, but spoiler alert, I don't remember most of them. Tell me my background's not the best background you've ever seen. It's doctor and I am calm. Hello Shiny Bays, hello besties, welcome to this month's monthly wrap up. Yep, I meant to say month twice. That wasn't a mistake on my part. No, I don't make mistakes. Hannah Montana said that everybody makes mistakes except Larry. I read 10 books this month and that's good, right? That's a very good amount of books, but I was in the weirdest slump where I forced myself to read these. I don't know what it was, but I think it was because last month I read like 26 books, which is an enormously huge amount. Hello? It's a big amount, okay? I usually read like 15 or less, so that was a lot. So I think that it made me be in a slump this month. I don't know, but nothing was really clicking with me. And then I made a big mistake because I started rewatching one of my favorite shows. So now I'm just in a TV kick. Like all I want to do is just rewatch the show. Like it's Criminal Minds, by the way. I just want to keep watching Criminal Minds. I love that show so fucking much. I got 15 seasons to go through, okay? So I'm not in the mood to read, which is a problem because I have this. I have to read. So I ended up reading 10 books, like I said. But I will tell you all my thoughts on these, my star rating, a little bit of what they're about from what I remember. No spoilers on any of these videos, of course. I'll also tell you if I read these on Kindle or paperback or audios. Let's get to Deary. Do you guys like Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time? Listen, Killian Jones in Once Upon a Time. Captain Motherfucking Hook. I can't. So the first book I read this month was Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This one I actually listened to, but I really wanted the paperback because it's so cute. Like, look at it. It's such a pretty paperback, so I needed to own it. But yes, I did listen to it. I do this a lot where I read it on my Kindle or I listen to the audiobook and I still have the paperback. Is it the best use of my money? No. Am I gonna stop though? Absolutely not. Anyway, Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This book follows, hold on. I'll wait for you to guess. Did you guess Delilah Green? Because you'd be right. Ding, 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 ding. It follows Delilah Green and Claire, I don't remember her last name. Claire Subsicles? Subsicles is not right. Claire Sutherland. That's what I meant. Claire Sutherland. It is in third person, which is the whole entire reason why I listen to it on audio, because I used to be able to read third person easily, but now I hate it. Basically, this is a small town sapphic romance. Immediately, yes. Delilah goes back to her small town that she's from for her estranged sister's wedding because she gets hired to be the photographer. So she goes to the small town and she runs into Claire, who happens to be her stepsister's best friend, and they have been best friends since they were kids. And Claire, who's her stepsister's best friend, happens to be a single mom. So not only is it sapphic, not only is it small town, but it's also single parent. Are you kidding? I immediately had to get this book. I had no other choice. You know what I mean? I enjoyed the hell out of this. I knew I would love it because of the tropes, but it was just so good. Delilah Green may not care, but I care, Delilah. I care deeply, okay? I rated this a 4.25. I loved the side characters. I loved Delilah and Claire and all of that. I wanted a little bit more angst, if that makes sense, but I loved it. Delilah is one of my faves. She was such a great MC, honestly, and Claire was great. They were so different. It was borderline Grumpy Sunshine, I would say. This is also part of a series that hasn't finished. This is the very first book, but the next one is going to be about Astrid, which is her estranged stepsister, and then I think they're going to have a third one too. I don't know if they're gonna be anymore, but I'm very excited. I really enjoyed this. The cover is so fucking cute. It is an adult sapphic romance, so it does have some spice, which I love. I think that the next book is gonna be my favorite. I'm very excited for the next one. Delilah Green Doesn't Care? I care. 4.25. Then after Delilah Green, I read Garnet Flats by Daphne Perry. This one I read on Kindle because I got the ARC, but it just came out, so you can go read it if you'd like. It's the third book in the Eden series. The first one is Indigo Ridge, the second one is Juniper Hill, and then it's Garnet Flats. They also have a prequel called Christmas in Quincy, but they're all interconnected standalone, so you can't just read whichever one you want. I would highly recommend Juniper Hill though. That one is my favorite. So this one's about Talia and Foster, and it is dual POV. Talia is a doctor, Foster is a boxer, and it's a second chance romance. They dated 7 years ago and something happens. I will not get into it, but they don't talk anymore. Now Foster just shows up in Quincy and he's like, hey Talia, give me another chance, girl. I know I fucked up, but let me grovel. Is there a better trope than that? No, we love to see it. We love to see men on their knees. I really enjoyed the setup of this book, and I also really enjoy seeing Quincy and being back there. It had all the same emotions as Indigo Ridge and Juniper Hill. You got to see all the other characters, so I loved every single part of that. I rated this a 4.5. The reason why it wasn't a 5 like Juniper Hill is because I was a little bit upset with Foster. Obviously, I can't explain this without giving spoilers because it has to do with like what he did and all that, but just overall, I loved the groveling. But I felt like he did way too much. Like what he did was just no good, like no good at all. So it was still a very good book and it was still a 4.5, but it wasn't a 5 because I didn't like the mistake. I didn't like the whole concept of what happened. Me trying to explain this without giving it away is very difficult. Let's just say it took me for a ride. This one really delivered on small town and second chance romance. That is all I will say. I really enjoyed Talia and Foster. Like I said, not my favorite in the series, but I liked it. The next 3 books I read were on my Kindle, handy dandy Kindle right here. I know it's Kindle. I like to pronounce it wrong for fun. It's only fun for me, but fun nonetheless. I read Dirty Curve by Megan Brandy. This book follows 2 characters whose names I do not remember for the life of me. I kind of blocked them out of my mind. He's a baseball player and she is the tutor at the school, and he needs to get his grades up so he can remain playing baseball and all that jazz, you know, athletes. Anyway, so he gets her as a tutor and she starts to help him out, but she is the only person at the school who doesn't pay any attention to him and doesn't think he's all that. And he's like, what the fuck? Why don't you think I'm all that? And so he becomes intrigued by her. I read this because I thought it was going to be Naylee vibes from One Tree Hill, my favorite couple of all time. So I was like, ooh, tutor athlete. This is going to be perfect. I'm going to love this. Say You Swear is one of my favorite books of all time. I'm going to love this book. I was wrong because I rated this a 1 star. I should have saved myself some time and DNF this book because I hated it. I don't think I've hated a book so much in a long time, honestly. Like everything about this book sucked. 2 of the conflicts in this book were absolute garbage, like the plot twist, conflict, whatever. I hated them so much. But the book in general wasn't even good until that moment anyway. So it was still only gonna be like a 2 star, but the 2 conflicts ruined it even more. I didn't think it was possible, but it was. The characters quite literally were the worst. The guy thought he was like God's gift to women. Sir, you're literally a college baseball player. Humble yourself, okay? And the girl had the personality of a chair. His personality was the worst and she didn't have any. That's pretty much all I can tell you. Honestly, these quotes right here, I'll put 3 quotes right here on the screen that really explain this book. These are things this man said. In that moment, I should have known this was gonna be a 1 star. But no, I kept reading because I was like, oh, maybe it'll get better. It didn't. The only parts of this book that were good were the parts where they showed Noah. Because this book is in the same universe as Say You Swear, so Noah did appear a little, and those were the parts that I really enjoyed. That is where my 1 star came from, or else it would have been a 0. But then I read Flawless by LZ Silver. You guys already know this was in my top 10 of the year so far. I loved it so fucking much. This book ignited a love for cowboys in me I wasn't sure I had. And by I wasn't sure, I mean I had no clue. Flawless follows Summer and Rhett, and it is dual POV, and basically Rhett is a bull rider and he gets in a little bit of a scandal when he says he doesn't like milk publicly. I agree with you, Rhett. I am with you 100%, guy man. In his line of work, he cannot be saying that because most of his advertisements come from milk companies and from small towns who are really into milk. So he gets in trouble for saying that, okay? And he needs a little babysitter, PR person, basically someone that's going to follow him around and keep him in line. And that person is Summer. So this very much has forced proximity because she's forced to go live with him in his ranch to make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes. All this because of milk. Like, forced proximity, roommates, grumpy sunshine. I don't know why I loved this book so much. It just caught me at the perfect time. Like, it was everything to me. I rated it 5 stars, and that's shocking because I don't rate a lot of books 5 stars. It has to be amazing for me to rate it that, but I don't know why this had me. The spice was immaculate. The plot was great. Summer and Rhett were amazing. The side characters were awesome. And this is going to be a series too, so we're going to get to see everybody else get books as well. I don't know. It scratched an itch I didn't know I had. I don't like that saying. I don't like that saying at all. It tickled my fancies. I don't like that either. It was good. 5 stars. Yeehaw, you know? And then I read Meet Me Halfway by Lillian T. James. Another one that really caught me by surprise. I thought I was gonna like this book, but let me just tell you that I love this book. Please go read this. This gave 1% of You meets Wait For It, okay? If you like Wait For It by Mariana Zapata, this one's for you. If you like 1% of You by Michelle Gross, this one's for you. Please read it. It also even gave the same energy as Juniper Hill. It just was everything. It is everything. Maddie is a single mom and she moves in next door to this very grumpy man. Not even next door. Their doors like connect. It's one of those duplexes where like her room is like the opposite of his. It like faces each other. You know what I'm trying to say? Anyway, this served Single Mom and Grumpy Sunshine, y'all. It was so good. Like Flawless and Meet Me Halfway. Please read those two. Please. They were everything. And they're both on KU as well. So I loved Maddie. She was such a strong MC. She didn't piss me off at all. And most MCs do piss me off at one point. Garrett also didn't piss me off. Crazy stuff. He was great. It was a slow burn. So expect it to be a slow burn. But it was so fluffy and so cute. It just... Slow Burn, Grumpy Sunshine, and Small Town are my 3 favorite tropes. So I should have known that I was gonna love this. Sadly, Meet Me Halfway is only from Maddie's POV, but y'all, it's still so worth it. And Jamie, the little kid, he was so cute. Fictional kids are superior, okay? But here's the thing, they either make or break a book. And in this one, he made it. As if the book wasn't amazing already, Jamie just took it all the way to the top. And heavy on the trigger warnings for Meet Me Halfway, y'all, please search them up. Did I tell you I rated it 5 stars? You're gonna thank me later. In fact, you can thank me now just to get ahead of the game. Then I listened to the audiobook of Blindsided by Amy Dawes. This one is part of a series. I'm pretty sure it's the second one. I didn't listen to the other one. I just jumped right into this. And I could tell that there was books for other couples, but it didn't bother me that much. I don't know. It's not a series that I like feel the need to go ahead and read the other ones. So if you wanted to read just this, you definitely can. I understood everything. But anyway, it follows Freya and Mac, and it is dual POV, and Freya and Mac have been best friends. He's a professional soccer player, and she has very much no experience in the romance department, and she tells him that one night in a game of truth or dare. He tells her that he's going to help her out. He's going to make her confidence go up by training her how to date, but he's gonna be the test subject. So you got friends to lovers, you got a little bit of like secret dating, you have a little bit of friends with benefits as well. The things I loved about this were the plus size representation, that was done really well, and the plot. I really enjoyed the concept of like a friend trying to help out another one on how to date and how to become more experienced. I liked those parts, and it was very funny. It had a lot of humor to it, but I just didn't care about the characters. And I'm a very much a character person. I can overlook a plot being bad if the character is really good. If I'm obsessed with the characters, I probably will still really love a book, even if there isn't much plot. But if the plot is really good, but then the characters are not my favorite, I probably won't like it that much, you know? I just don't become invested. So with these, like Freya was cool, she was funny, and Mac was just there. I felt nothing towards Mac, like at all. Freya carried, she hard carried. Like she was funny, she had the banter, she had personality, but Mac to me was just a soccer ball. Like he just liked soccer and that was it. There was nothing else to him, which I think was my biggest problem. He felt very much like furniture, like, you know, when something's just there and like you need it, but it's not amazing. Like a dining room table, for instance. You know, you like your dining room table, but do you love your dining room table? I don't know why I just compared him to a table. Unhinged. Overall, it was a 3.5. I still had a good time, and the audiobook was great because they both narrated it. And you know when you know when an audiobook, like you have the girl and guy narrator, but then they do each other's parts. This one, it wasn't like that. They literally had conversations, like both narrators with each other, which I liked that. I also love their accents. That was amazing. So I would recommend if you're gonna read this to do audiobook. That was a great experience, but overall, it was just okay. 3.5. Then I read Help Me Remember by Corinne Michaels. This is the special edition cover, y'all, and it is gorgeous. Please look at this. This is such a pretty cover. I don't want to tell you too much about this book because the mystery aspect is a big thing, so I'd say go in as blindly as you possibly can. But if you want to hear a little bit, it follows Brielle and Spencer and is dual POV, and Brielle wakes up in a hospital room and she doesn't remember 3 years of her life. She's told that her brother was murdered and that she was there, but she doesn't remember it. So her brother's best friend, Spencer, starts trying to help her remember her life and how the murder happened. That is all I will say, because going blindly into this book, I would say, is very important. I didn't know a single thing when I opened it up. I literally just saw Help Me Remember and I was like, okay. I liked this book, but I was really anxious during it. I stopped reading sad books as much as I possibly can. Like if I know a book is gonna be really sad, I don't read it because I already have enough anxiety. I don't need it in books too. Like I want to live in the fantasy. I want the fluff. Even when it's dark romance, I just don't want sadness throughout. And this book had a lot of sadness because obviously the topic of, you know, her brother passing away and her not remembering her life and all of that. So I was really anxious reading this. If I would have read the back, I would have known what it was about. So this is very much on me. It was good. I just wasn't invested. Like it focused on the mystery and on the amnesia and the murder and all of that. And it didn't focus on the romance aspect. It was a 3.5 as well. I would say there's also a little bit of triggers in this book, so search them up if you need them. Then I went back to my Kindle and I read Drive Me Wild by Melanie Harlow. This is the first book in the Bellamy Creek series. I did not read the other ones though. There are 3 other ones. I just read the first one. I will be reading the next ones eventually, but since I got in a slump, I didn't really feel like reading the next ones, you know? This one follows Blair and Griffin. It is dual POV. Blair basically stumbles into town, and by stumbles, I mean she literally crashes her car right outside town when she's about to come in. And Griffin is the mechanic who sees her and comes right out and tries to help her out. It is a small town. It is grumpy sunshine. It's a little bit insta-lovey, which was not my favorite part at all. It was still really good. Even though it was insta-lovey, it was a 4. It wasn't one of those mind-blowing books, but it was very good for if you're in a slump because I was still able to read it and I wasn't able to read anything else. So Melanie Harlow is great for slumps. There was a lot more spice than I expected, which I should expect Melanie Harlow to have spice by now. She always has spice, but for some reason, every time I'm like, whoa. Blair was so fucking funny. She babbled so much. It reminded me a lot of how I am, so I'm sure people find her annoying. Griffin, very grumpy mechanic. Like I said, spice was immaculate. It was just too much insta-love, so I rated it a 4, but I really liked the concept. I loved the small town. I'm very excited for the next books in the series because they were set up really well. 4 stars. Definitely recommend if you're in a slump. Then the last book I listened to this month was I Kissed Shira Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. Another one that I listened to, but also needed a paperback. Let me explain though. I bought the paperback before I listened to it, but it's just so cute. It's such a cute paperback. I obviously had to own it. Obviously. I listened to it because it was 3rd POV once again, and most YAs I do like to listen to. This book follows Chloe Green. She basically is kissed by Shira Wheeler on prom night, but Shira Wheeler happens to be her academic rival. So why the fuck did she kiss her, right? She comes to her house the next day to find out, but then she sees that Shira? She sees that Shira is gone. She has fled. No one knows where she is. And Shira left some clues around town for Chloe to find out where she has gone and why she kissed her. And not only her, but 2 other people as well. Her boyfriend and another guy who lives next door to her. So it's a whole ass mess. Now these 3 people form a little alliance to try to figure out clues of where Shira has went, why she kissed all of them, what's going on. What sucks about this is this was one of those books that I felt like I would have loved had I not been in a slump, because I really enjoyed the plot and I loved the banter, I loved the humor, I liked the mystery, but something about it didn't click for me. I wasn't invested in any part of the story. Like I said, I think this was because of a slump, because I started it and it took me 2 weeks to listen to this audiobook. I just kept putting it off, and there were days that I didn't listen at all for like 3 days, and then I would go back, and I think the story just kind of lost its spark because of the way I read it, you know? I did love the representation in this book, and I loved the topics that it dove into and the light it shed on it. It was definitely my slump. I would blame that on my rating for this because I rated it 3.5. But I think that if I would have listened to it at a time that I really wasn't in a slump, it could have definitely been like a 4.5 or even a 5 or something, you know? So that makes me sad. Search up trigger warnings if you need it. And the last book I read this month was Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This one follows Florence and Benji. It's only 1 POV, only Florence's. This one is really interesting. Okay, ready? Florence is a ghostwriter for a famous romance novelist, but she stops believing in romance after she goes through a really bad breakup a year ago. And she's supposed to be writing a manuscript. But is she doing that? No, she's not writing a single thing. And then she meets Benji, her new editor, and he tells her, I need the manuscript tomorrow. But then something tragic happens in her life and she has to go back to her small town to deal with what happened to her family. And while she's there, she sees Benji, but he's a ghost. So she's a ghostwriter falling in love with a ghost. I don't want to explain anymore about this book, but it was really good. The thing about this one is I rated it 4 stars because I watched a movie with the same plot, so I wasn't that impressed. That is all I will say. I would have liked it a lot more had I not watched this movie, but what's done is done. I did enjoy this book. It was so fucking funny. It also had a lot of hope. It was paranormal romance kind of vibe, small town. Gilmore Girls meets Addams Family, meets book lovers, meets Emily Henry. Dead Romantics. Anyway, Shawty Bays, here are the books I read this month, plus the ones I talked about on Kindle and audio and etc. If it wasn't for this slump, I feel like I would have enjoyed these books a lot more, but at least I still had Meet Me Halfway and Flawless. Those were still 5 stars. Whether I was in a slump or not, those were 5 stars because I was in a slump since the beginning of the month. Like right at the beginning, I knew I wasn't going to read a lot because I wasn't in the mood whatsoever. So when you force yourself to do it, it's not as fun. So take my opinions on all these books a little bit with a grain of salt because maybe possibly I would have enjoyed a lot of them more had it not been for my reading slump. That's just my excuse of this video. Reading slump. When will I enjoy reading again? It feels like never. All I want to do is watch Criminal Minds. Let me know what you read this month and maybe what your favorite book was, or let me know your thoughts on any of these books if you read any of them. I love you so, so much. Have such a good day.